All right. So big thing here, guys, if you want to be successful in Science 10 is attendance. Okay, you absolutely have to be here each and every day. Okay, if you are sick, obviously that happens from time to time. Okay, but if you are going to be away for an extended period, or you just pick and choose when you show up for class, that's not going to work out very well for you. All right, you need to be here. You need to be on time for class. Okay, because we cover a lot of stuff. To give you some idea, last year you probably took science all year long, right? Maybe not every day, but you took science all year long. If I was teaching you Science 9 at the pace I have to teach Science 10, we would be done about the second week of March. Okay, this course is way bigger than anything you took in junior high. So you've got to be ready and willing to do a heck of a lot more work than you did in junior high. Okay, and I'm just being blatantly honest with you here. Science 10 is a lot more work than Science 9 was. Okay, and a lot of that work is done by you at home. All right, that's what's kind of the big change. You probably noticed that first semester. Okay, if you haven't, you're going to notice it now. All right, it's a lot more work. Okay, so you do need to be here, but the most important thing is this: if you're not here, you are still responsible for whatever it is we did that day or those days. Right? There are no exceptions made on that. Because you're going to have the podcast and essentially everything you could possibly need from my website to catch up, you are expected to do just that. Okay? So if we do a lab on the day you're absent, it's still due for you the same day it's due for everybody else, because you have the ability to be caught up. Okay? Between my website and the podcast and Twitter, you have absolutely 100% ability to remain caught up. Okay? So not being here is not an excuse to have your work done. Okay. Yeah, so like we said, you're going to use podcast, Twitter, and my website, which I'll show you here in a minute, okay, to stay up to date if you're missing. Lates, okay? Every day in this class, when the bell goes, the door will be in the closed position, the same one it's in now. Okay? If you are outside of the door at that time, you stay outside the door. All right? Do not knock on the door. Do not walk through the door. Okay? You wait out there until I come get you, because when I come get you, it'll be less of an interruption to everyone who had the courtesy to show up on time. Okay? So if you are late, you wait out there until I come get you. Now, if you've been waiting out there for 20 minutes, I probably didn't notice you were out there. At that point, you can knock. Okay? But most of the time, I'll know if you're out there. All right? Everybody clear on that? Okay? Please make sure that you're on time. All right. Resources available to you in my class: website, podcasts, Twitter. Okay? All three of them are available to you, and this is how you're going to use them. All right? The first thing is my website. All right? You're going to use that a lot. Okay? If you got your phone, take your phone out right now. Okay? You're actually going to use your phone in my class. I believe your phone is a tool. Okay? It is a useful tool, provided it is used in the correct fashion. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to go to my website right now. The way that you are going to do that is you'll first go to the Redeemer website. Okay? So you will go to www.redeemer.ab.ca. Looks like this. Okay? Go to that website first. You will scroll down to the bottom, and under Student Portal, you'll see Teacher Web Pages. All right? Click on that. Okay, then you got to pick your school. Holy Trinity Academy is in the second column. All right, and then you'll see a list of all the teacher websites. I made sure mine was the longest name, so it would be the biggest button and be hard to miss. Okay, Mr. Coderre's Science and Physics site. Click on that, and you're there. Okay, that's my website. Here's the stuff you can get from it. All right, first off, there's a link to the Twitter feed on there. Your Twitter feed is the bottom one. Okay? This is the symbol for all the stuff, my podcast, my Twitter feed, they all have the same insignia here. Okay? It's the triquetra with some science stuff in it. Okay? And so what you'll see there, okay, I'm not going to be blowing up your phone with tweets. Okay? You might on a busy day for me get 3. And that would be like a day we did a lab where I have to give you the data and the lab sheets and the podcast. Okay? Then you probably get 3. Most days you're going to get 1, maybe 2. All right, so it's not like I'm going to be, you know, I'm not Justin Bieber. I'm not going to be tweeting, you know, 25 million tweets a day and getting drunk and crashing my guinea into whatever, because I'm not stupid. Sorry, I take great pleasure in bashing him because I think he's an idiot. But okay, so you got the Twitter feed here. It's on there, but I'll show you how to follow that in a few minutes. Okay, there's also a link down here to my YouTube page where you'll find the podcasts for Science 10. You probably don't. You can watch them here, but I wouldn't because that's how big they are when you watch them on my website. And it's really slow. So you're better off to just go to the YouTube site and watch it there, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay. The other stuff that's on the website here, due dates, top right-hand corner. Okay, anytime something is due, it'll be posted in here. It'll say Science 10, this assignment due on this day. Okay, so make sure that you're checking that. Okay, my email is also on here so that you can't possibly screw it up or misspell my name. Okay, so you can copy it right from there, right, and make sure that you get it right. Okay, links and stuff like that, you probably won't use too much of these. They're mostly for physics, but you might use the lab report template the first time we do a lab. Okay, it kind of sets it up for you, and then you can just fill in the blanks as you go, and then you'll have one of those as well. Okay, the other thing you're going to use off of my website is this section right here where it says Science 10 Notes and Assignments. Okay, if you click on that, this page will come up. And what you'll see are the 4 units: chemistry, biology, physics, and global systems. Okay, and you'll see a few other things here, like the day 1 package, which is what you just got handed out to you. Okay, there's a notes package. Okay, you're going to want to have that soon. All right, so either you print it from home, or if you've got a tablet or a laptop or something like that, you may just want to use the electronic version. Okay, in class. I'm perfectly fine with that. If you have an iPad, you can get the app called Notability. I'm not sure if they have it for Android yet, okay, but I think they were working on it. Notability is just an app where you can open up this file and write on it. Okay, with your finger or stylus or whatever you choose to use. Okay, a lot of people are starting to use that more and more. You can get that app for your phone, for your iPhone, but it's really hard because it's so small. Okay, so either way, you're going to need that notes package. Either you're printing it off or you're using it electronically, but you are going to need it. Okay, like tomorrow, Monday at the latest. Right, so make sure you get that. Okay, it's about 55 or 60 pages. Okay, something like that. It's for the whole year. Okay, that's the notes. That's like your textbook. We don't even use a textbook. Okay, that's what you're going to need for notes. So have that ready. Okay, you'll want to make a few notes by hand here and there, but that will save you from having to copy absolutely everything down. All right, because I won't wait. If you're copying everything down and I'm done a slide, I'm moving on. Okay, so it's best to have that. Okay, plus it's all the right stuff. All right, so I would suggest printing that off. If you print it in color, be aware, it's 60 pages. You're probably going to pretty much cook 1 ink cartridge on something like that. Okay, you might just want to print it in black and white. Okay, the color's really not that important for the notes. If you need to see the color, you can always just call it up on your computer or your phone and look at the color version. Okay, if you want to save a little bit of time and ink, okay, print in black. All right, and then down below is something we'll go over later on today using your Google stuff. Okay, there's also a folder that has all the data and observations for all the labs that we will do. Okay, so in there, okay, there's some of the stuff left over from first semester here where we've got the lab data in there. So if you're not here the day we do a lab, or you lose your data, you use this. All right, then you don't have to worry about not being able to get your lab report done because you can get the data off of here. All right, so that can save you some grief and stress if that situation arises for you. Okay, the other stuff you can find in there, okay, is all the slides, the smartboard slides that I'll use. You probably don't want to print those off, okay, because that would be, well, probably close to a box of paper. Okay, not a ream, a box, which is like 8 reams. You don't want to do that. Okay, that's a lot of paper and it's a lot of ink. You probably don't want to print each one of these individually. All right, but if you want to view them and make notes on them electronically, they work pretty good for that. Okay, or if you're just wanting to follow along in class, you can use them for that as well. Okay, other things that you'll find in there, if we have a lab, the handouts are in there. If we have an assignment, the handouts are in there. So if you ever lose yours, this is where you go to get another one. Okay, I only make a couple of extra copies. Okay, so they tend to disappear fast. So if you lose yours, just go here. Okay, that way, if you went home and you forgot something was due tomorrow and you forgot the sheet at home, or you forgot the sheet at school, you just go here, you got the sheet. Okay, you don't have to worry about it. It's always accessible to you. Okay, Making sense there, guys? Okay, so the website's pretty much one-stop shopping. Make sure you bookmark it. Everything you need can be accessed from here. All right, so please make sure you're using that, okay, to its maximum potential there. All right, the other thing that you have available to you, okay, are my podcasts. So that's my YouTube page. Okay, so the YouTube page is Coder Science 10. All right. And on there, every time I make a recording, just like I'm doing now, okay, I'll post that at the end of the day. Okay. Now, you can see here, okay, the way that it's organized is the current podcasts appear right here. All right, so right now, only Unit 1, and it's not even a Unit 1 lesson. I just put something in there so it would show up. Okay, if you want to see today's podcast later on today, you click on Unit 1 Chemistry, and you could play today's podcast. All right, but that's where you'll access them. Now, if, let's say, for example, you're going on holidays, God forbid, for 2 weeks, okay, and you want to look at stuff a little bit ahead, last semester's podcasts are archived. Okay, every podcast from last semester is still on here. Okay, you can access it through there. You probably won't have much need for that. Okay, but just in case, they're there. All right. Okay, and then there's popular because that just kind of shows up. All right, but that's where you'll get those from. Okay, and I would say if you have the ability, and you all do, okay, I would just subscribe to that YouTube channel, and then you'll always know when a new one comes up. Okay, and you can use it all the time. Okay, and it's really, really handy. If you ask anybody who's taken one of my courses before, they'll tell you use the podcasts. Okay, because sometimes when we do a lab and we're kind of getting set up for it, and I'm talking about, you know, here's what we're going to be doing. This is how you're going to want to do this. If you're listening to that while you're putting the lab report together, it makes putting the lab report together pretty easy, because lots of times I give stuff away. All right, and so if you're listening to it while you're doing an assignment or doing a lab report, it allows you to do a lot better. Okay, really, like ask somebody who took it last semester, they'll tell you that. Okay, really helps out when you're doing those. So make the most use of that you can. Okay, again, I'm not saying watch every podcast in its entirety. In fact, I'm saying don't do that. Okay, I'm saying watch the parts you need to watch. All right, the other place where they come in handy, every Tuesday and every Thursday, with the exception of today, obviously, okay, you will have a quiz in this class. They're not a long quiz, a couple of questions. They usually take us 5 or 10 minutes at the most to do. Okay, those quizzes will be given to you ahead of time. I will put them on Twitter the night before. So Monday night and Wednesday night, a tweet will go out that says, here's tomorrow's quiz. Definitely have a look at that. All right, because I'm not trying to trick you, okay? I'm going to give that same quiz the next day in class. So if you go home and do that quiz at home, are you pretty much set up for success the next day? Quizzes are 10% of your final mark. That would seem to me to be a pretty easy 10%, given that you're getting all of that stuff ahead of time. All right, now, if for some reason you do poorly on a quiz, you can always go back and watch the podcast of me going over that quiz, because I'll record me going over the answers to the quiz. All right, and so you'll be able to, you know, look through your Power School and go, oh, I didn't do very good on that quiz. Well, there'll be a link in there. Okay, it'll look something like this. Okay, so if you've called it up on your phone, you probably know what your tests look like in Power School, but that's what they look like. Okay, there'll be down below a couple of links. One link will be to the quiz questions, and the other one will say podcast of quiz. Well, if you click on that, it'll take you to the recording I made of us going over the quiz. Okay, and you'll be able to go, oh, that's where I went wrong. Okay, and then when you see a similar question on a unit exam or something like that, you'll get it right. Okay, so it's a good review tool in that way. You can review the stuff that you definitely need to look over. Okay, so another way to use them there. Okay, as for the Twitter feed, okay, it's like any other Twitter feed. All right, it's got a picture of the school and again my Science 10 icon there, and what you'll see are the podcasts, because every time I put a podcast on YouTube, it automatically says on Twitter, here's today's podcast. It automatically does that, so those kind of show up there. Okay, you can see here's some of the last few tweets from last semester. Okay, tips and hints for the unit exam. Okay, you know, reminders of things. I'll often put those out. Okay, and again, every Monday and every Wednesday, there'll be a tweet that goes out that is tomorrow's quiz. All right, so definitely follow at CodereSci10. Okay, you got a Twitter account, follow this. You don't have a Twitter account, get one. Okay, or be checking my website every day. Okay, to see the tweets because they'll be pretty important. All right. If you don't know how to do that, you can come and see me and I'll show you how. All right, but it's definitely worth your while to be following that one. Okay, especially if you miss a day. If you miss a day, that's where you want to go because that's where you'll find out what we did. Okay, and you'll get links to everything you need from there. Okay, questions so far on that stuff? Okay, again, guys, this is no small amount of time for me to put together, okay, but I believe it's important because it gives you guys the ability to do your very best, okay, but the onus is on you to make use of it. Okay, if you don't make use of it, well, you know, it's not much good then. All right. All right, so that pretty much goes over, okay, everything here in 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. Okay, 2.4. Okay, like I said, this is no small amount of work to put together. So I never want to be asked, Codere, what did I miss? My answer will always be the same. A lot. And that's all I will say. Okay? You can find out what you missed on your own. Okay? I don't have to tell you that. That's my way of telling you that. Okay? So if you are missing a day or whatever, okay, maybe you have to, you know, maybe your basketball team or hockey team is taking off for a tournament, you're going to miss a day, you can be caught up right away. All right? That's what this is for. Okay, for review and for catching up if you happen to miss a day. All right. Okay, classroom behavioral stuff. Okay, the biggest thing here, guys, is this needs to be an environment of respect. Okay, I will always treat you with respect. Okay, all this extra work that I am doing is one of the ways that I show respect to the fact that you guys are students. You're young men and women who need to, you know, to learn and to grow. That's my way of helping you and showing respect to you. Okay, if there's ever any issues in class, if I have to, you know, do discipline or anything like that, okay, I will always do that with the utmost care and respect. And I expect the same in return, and I expect that you treat your classmates in a similar way. All right, if there's ever any issues with that, okay, that kind of stuff gets dealt with right away. All right. Okay, work assign, or sorry, 3.2 here, listen up. Listen up is my way of getting your attention. If I say listen up, I want everybody's eyes forward, I want earplugs out of the ears, okay, and I want 100% of your undivided attention. Okay, it could be simply, you know, listen up, we got to get started. Listen up, there's a mistake on this sheet. Listen up, the room is on fire, we need to get out of here now. Okay, in either case, I need your full and undivided attention right away. Okay, if I have trouble getting your attention, you keep talking after I've asked for your attention, then I usually ask you to leave, and I go outside and talk to you later when I have your full and undivided attention. Okay. Work assigned in class. You'll get various things given to you in this class. You'll get labs. Okay. Lab reports come in for marks. You submit them, I mark them, I hand them back. Okay, you'll get assignments. Sometimes those are projects, sometimes they're you know, question sheets or whatever. Those will be marked and handed back to you and written down in your final marks. Okay, you will also get worksheets. Worksheets are not ever checked, ever marked, okay, or anything like that. They are simply practice. They are for you to do in class when I am here to help you, for you to ask questions. If you don't finish them in class, you should finish them at home. At the end of the semester, you should not have a single worksheet that is not completely done, even though not one of them is going to count towards your final grade. Okay? Because what do you suppose is on the quizzes? It's the same stuff that's on the worksheets. Okay, what's on the unit exams? The same stuff that's on the quizzes and worksheets. Okay, if you're doing those, you're doing the same stuff that's going to be asked for marks. Okay, so make sure you take the most opportunity to practice that stuff and get all of those worksheets done. Okay, now the stuff that does come in for marks. Okay, I don't let you not hand stuff in. Okay, you ask somebody from second semester, I will be your worst nightmare if you are not handing stuff in. Okay, I will hound you constantly. Okay, I will email and call your parents. I will make sure that you are escorted to my room in scheduled help and at lunch hour until I have all of your missing assignments. Okay? Non-completion is not an option in this class. Okay? So, save yourself a lot of grief. Get stuff done on time. Okay? But you will get stuff done. Okay? If for some reason, okay, like I say, you're not getting it done, then you're going to be in here. You're going to be spending a lot of time with me, and while I'm a brilliant conversationalist and an exceptional company, you would probably rather be elsewhere on your free time. Okay? The other thing is in this course, guys, there are no rewrites. Okay, I want to make that abundantly clear. You will not be given the opportunity to rewrite anything in this course. All right? Because you can come and ask me for help every single day in scheduled help, every single day at lunch hour. Okay? I am here all the time because I have no life. Okay? You can come and see me and ask me for help. All right? There should be no reason to not get stuff. Okay? And as a result, there should be no reason to need a rewrite on anything. All right? You've got the podcasts to review. You'll have all kinds of resources to use. If you use them, you won't have to worry about needing a rewrite. Okay? And you won't get one. Now, if you do happen to fail a test, okay, and this only applies to tests, okay, then you will come and see me, and you and I will sit down together and work on something to make sure you understand the stuff you didn't get. Okay? And at that point, I may alter your mark slightly, but you will not rewrite anything. Everybody clear on that? Okay. Fairness versus equality. Okay. I don't believe that everyone should be treated exactly the same, because I don't believe that that's fair. Okay? Everybody has different situations in their life, different things going on, and in a lot of cases, it isn't appropriate to treat two people exactly the same. Okay? Sometimes, sure it is. Okay? Sometimes everyone gets treated the same because that is fair, but in a lot of cases, it isn't. Okay? I'll give you an example here. I once had two people come to my desk on the day something was due. They both had the same problem. It wasn't done. And the first person, to their credit, was very honest with me, and they said, like, I just didn't get it done. I was watching TV, my favorite show was on, and I didn't do it. Okay? And I'm like, well, you know, I appreciate you being honest with me, not lying to me. Okay? But you didn't get it done, and so now you're going to have to hand it in for late marks. Okay? And you need to get it into me as soon as possible. Okay? The person standing in line behind them looked like they would have had to get better to die. Okay? They were incredibly sick looking, like bags under their eyes, like they hadn't slept in a long time. And they said to me, well, I don't have it done, Mr. Quitter. I'm like, okay, well, why? And they said, well, you know, last night I went home and I was just getting ready to sit down to do my homework, and my parents got in this huge fight and they both stormed out of the house, and then I had to make dinner for my 6 brothers and sisters, and I didn't cook the chicken enough, and we all got food poisoning, and we spent the whole night throwing up, and I didn't get my homework done. Okay? Now, I still have to be a little bit of a jerk on something like that and say that's what happens when you leave it until the night before. Okay? Stuff like that can happen when you leave it till the night before. Okay? But on the other side of that, I'm a human being and I feel a little bit sorry for you. Okay? I hope everything is okay at home. Get it to me tomorrow. Okay? There aren't a lot of excuses that I will accept, okay, for not having something done on time. And by not a lot, I mean virtually none. Okay? I always give lots of time for things to get completed. Ladies in the corner. So I expect them to be completed. Don't leave them for the night before. That's when disaster always strikes. Okay? All right. If you ever feel that I haven't been fair, okay, please come and see me after class, and be happy to talk to you about it. Okay. 3.5, accountability. This is the difference between junior high and high school. You have a lot of work to do in high school, way more than you had in grade 9 science. Every week you have 2 quizzes. Most weeks you will probably have something that you are handing in 4 marks. Okay? We have lots of things that we do, so there are lots of things coming in. In that regard, that's actually good for you because you have lots of opportunities to improve your mark. Okay? Now, I expect that you get stuff in on time. Okay? And I don't think that that's an unreasonable expectation for this reason. You will never have a one-day turnaround for completion in my class. Okay? That means this. If we do something tomorrow, or sorry, if we do something on Monday, I will never expect it to be done and handed in on Tuesday. All right? I never give a one-day turnaround because I don't believe that that encourages or develops good time management skills. All right? The shortest turnaround you will have in my class is 2 school days. Right? That doesn't mean you're going to get 2 classes to work on it. It means you will have 2 school days minimum before I expect something to be handed in. Most of the time it's more than 2. All right? So it would mean this. If we were to do a lab today, the earliest that lab would be due would be Tuesday of next week. All right? Does that give you a lot of time to get something done? Okay? And I know how much work each one of these things is. I always make sure I give an appropriate amount of time for you to get things done, manage your time, schedule your stuff so that you can have it completed. All right? I expect more than that of myself. You will always get your stuff back the next day from me. Always. In the last 10 years of teaching, I have only once not handed something back the next day. And that's because I had to leave school that day because my wife went into labor and we had our 2nd child and I didn't get stuff marked that day. Only time in 10 years. You will always get stuff back the next day from me. Okay? So, there's not a lot of, sort of excuses I'll accept for you not having stuff done on time. If I can get 30 of them marked in one night, you can get 1 of them done in 3 days. Okay? Fair enough? Right? Those are the expectations. Okay. Now, assessment and evaluation. Okay, if I hand something back to you, okay, when I hand it back to you the next day, the first thing that we are going to do is go through it as a class. All right, so you'll have yours in front of you, okay, and you'll be following along, and I'll be talking about, well, in the hypothesis, we really needed to say the following things. In our observations, we had to have this. In our analysis, we needed to say the following things, whatever. You can follow along on yours. It should be pretty clear by the time we're done that why you got the mark you did. All right? If you still don't understand the mark you got, then by all means, after class, please come up and ask. All right? I'll be happy to talk to you about it after class. Okay? Do not come up in class in front of 29 other people, okay, and say to me, Mr. Coder, I think I should have gotten a better mark, okay? Because I won't talk about it in front of the rest of the class with you. All right? That just never ends well. All right? But come to me after class and I'm happy to do it. Okay? Your marks will be distributed according to the syllabus. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? 4.3 assignments and labs will be handed in on time. On time is this. Okay? On time is at the beginning of class on the due date. That is when I expect stuff to be handed in. After that, it is late. If you submit it to me at the end of class, it's late. The next day, it's late. A week later, still late. Okay? 2 months down the road, God forbid that should ever happen, still late. Okay? There are not different degrees of late. I know some teachers think there are, and it's like 10% per day. I have no time to be counting how many days late something is. Okay? In my mind, late and on time are like alive and dead. You're one or the other. Okay? So if it is late, it doesn't matter how late it's late. And it's 25% off if it's late. Okay? So make sure you got your stuff in on time. Okay? All right. If you're absent the day something was due, okay? So you were sick the day the lab was due. I expect it in the next day. That is not late. You were not here on the due date, okay? But it should be in the next day. Everybody with me on that? Now, we're going to be submitting most things electronically in this class, so even if you're sick, you should theoretically be able to get it into me on the due date anyway. All right? You don't actually have to physically be here to submit it. All right? And we'll go over how you're going to do that as well. All right, so that covers 4.3 and 4.4, okay? Make sure that you have it in on time. If it isn't in on time, it's going to be docked 25%. Okay, reason for that, guys, honestly, I'm going over it the whole thing the next day. It's hardly fair if you just sit there and copy the whole thing down and get 100%. Okay, that's not right. You don't learn anything that way. Okay, and it's not fair to everybody else who worked their tail off to get it done. Okay, questions on that part? Okay. Now, your course syllabus here, there's 4 units. Okay, first unit is chemistry. Okay, and we'll be starting that probably today. We'll get into it a little bit. We'll be going over a lot of stuff that's review from Science 9. The first little bit of classes like structure of the atom, okay, and naming compounds, okay, stuff that you did in Science 9, so that'll be a review. Hopefully we'll pick that up quickly and be able to move on from there, okay. After we've been able to name compounds and stuff like that, then we'll move on to looking at chemical reactions and properties of compounds, okay, and then from there we'll look at predicting reactions, and then we'll move on to the mole equation, and then we'll be done. It sounds like it's not very much, but this unit is usually the longest, okay, and we're probably not going to be done this unit until mid to late March. Right? Remember, we have a week off at the end of February, so that kind of stretches things a little bit. All right, but that's what we'll be doing for the first unit. We'll be doing chemistry. The second unit is biology. Okay, so we'll be using the microscopes, looking at slides. We'll be, doing some labs with different parts of plants and things like that. Okay, it's a lot different unit. It's a lot more reading and memorizing as opposed to chemistry, which is a lot of skills and stuff like that. Okay, our third unit, okay, is physics. Right? That's kind of a math-intensive unit. Okay, there's a lot of algebra and there's a lot of labs and activities and things like that in that unit as well. Okay, and then our last unit is global systems and energy. It is by far the easiest and shortest of the 4 units. In fact, last semester we completed that unit in 8 days. All right, so it's a real opportunity at the end of the semester to change your mark in a positive way, okay, should you need that, because it's worth the same amount as all the other unit exams, but it's got 1/4 of the material, okay, so it's a real opportunity and you can take advantage of that. Okay, your marks distribution here. All right, your unit exams, and there are 4 of them, are 25% of your final grade. All right, so a little over 4%, okay, for each one. Your labs, projects, and assignments, in other words, your classwork or your coursework, okay, 40% of your mark. So your lab reports that you can come and get help on, your assignments that you can come and get help on, okay, basically anything we start or do in class is 40% of your final grade. Okay, that's a pretty significant portion, okay, and you can get help on all of it. So make sure you take advantage of that. Your quizzes, 10%. Now, if you do the math on that, you've got 2 quizzes a week for the entire semester, and they only add up to 10%. How much is each quiz worth? I'm not looking for a number here. Is it very much? No. It's significantly less than 1%. Okay? Like every quiz by the end of the semester is worth like 1/4%. It's practically nothing. Okay? So doing poorly on 1 quiz isn't that big a deal. It's not going to significantly change your mark. Of course, the first quiz will, because it'll be the only mark counting. If you get 20% on the first quiz, your mark in the class will be 20% until we do something else. All right? But quizzes don't count for very much. They are a review tool, and that's all. Okay? But at the end of the semester, they do add up to 10% of your final mark. And since you get them all ahead of time, that's 10% you ought to get. Okay? Everybody with me on that? All right, and then your final exam in June is 25% of your final grade. Okay, so half of the stuff, half of your mark in this class is pretty much spoon-fed to you. Okay, and the other half is your exams. Okay, I think that's pretty fair. Okay, the last thing there, that going green part, I used to photocopy all the notes for everybody, and then I figured out how many acres of forest that ended up being, and I stopped. Okay, it ended up that by the end of a semester of Science 10, I had used 4 boxes of paper. That's 16 reams of paper, and that's like an ungodly number of trees. So I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, I made the notes package, which significantly cut down the number of pages that would need to be copied. Okay, so it's on you to find a way to get that stuff. Either you do it electronically or you print yourself a hard copy, but you got to have it one way or the other. Okay, and you're on your own to do it. All right, it's only 60 pages. All right. Okay, questions on any of that stuff? All right, other things that usually get asked. Can I have food in here? Sure. Can I have something to drink in here? As long as it's non-alcoholic, yes. Okay. If you make a mess, you clean it up. All right, the janitors are not here, okay, to clean up huge amounts of spills and things like that. Okay, if you make a spill, please clean it up. Can you listen to music? In some situations, yes. All right, if we are, let's say, doing seat work, you have a worksheet and that's what we're doing, and I'm just circulating, helping people. Yeah, that's a situation certainly where you can have your headphones on and you can be listening to music. No problem with that. I'm talking, headphones are out, both ears. Okay, and I've got your full and undivided attention at that point. All right, those are the expectations on that. Okay, if you're gone and the handout is given out the day you're gone, you can find them over in that little black and clear drawer unit underneath the big plant there. Okay, yours, the Science 10 stuff is in the 2 drawers labeled Science 10. Okay, pretty straightforward, easy to find. All of the stuff you get from me, with the exception of the thing you got today, will already have your name on it. Okay, all my stuff is mail merged with the class list, so there's one copy in there for everybody and it's personalized to you. So you go over there and you go through them until you find yours. All right, if you lose yours, there's one spare copy. If you don't get it, you got to print it off the website yourself. Okay, all right, so that's what you do if you miss something, a handout or something like that in class. Okay, that's where you can find them. Okay, the next thing we got to talk about here is how you're going to submit your stuff to me. Okay, how many of you have used your school email yet? Okay, only a couple. Actually, this is more than my grade 11s. Okay, how many of you have logged into a computer at school using your username and password? Okay, good. So pretty much everybody. All right. So you know then what your email address is and what your password is. Okay, because it's the same thing. All right. The way you're going to submit your work to me is through Google Drive. The school division has gone to great expense and effort to provide you with a school email address, which is essentially just a Gmail, okay, as well as a online storage space or a cloud space in which you can store your material. Okay, so you're going to be submitting everything to me through Google Drive. Now, right now that might be a little bit intimidating, but trust me, it is going to save you a ton of stress and a ton of time. All right? Because, I mean, how many of you have had this experience? Something is due, you have it set right by the door, and you leave and you forget it. Right? You come to school and you're like, oh, I had that all done, and I know exactly where it is. It's sitting right by the door, and I left it there. Okay? Well, this will eliminate that. Okay? With Google Drive, you will have access to everything you put in there all the time, anywhere. Okay? If you have a phone, a smartphone, you will have access to that stuff no matter where you go. So if you get to school and go, oh shoot, that lab report was due today, it's okay, because you'll still be able to give it to me, because you'll be able to access it either from a school computer or from your phone. Either way, okay? But you will always have it. All right, so it's really, really slick that way. It's also slick if you want some feedback from me. So let's say you got it done a couple days in advance and you want me to look it over. I'm happy to do that. Okay, you share it with me, and then you come see me in scheduled help. We sit down, I type a couple of things into the file. When you go home that night, what I typed is in your file. Okay, and you'll know then what to fix. Okay, it's really slick that way too. It's also great if you're doing a group project. All members of your group share the file. You can all work on it at the same time, and you don't even have to be in the same place. Okay? You can all be at home, and you can all be working on the file at the same time. Okay? That part's really cool. Okay? Us teachers got to play around with that first semester. We were a little bit immature, calling each other names and whatever on the same file, 6 or 7 of us all on the same file. Okay? But it's really cool because it's great if you're collaborating and doing something with other people, or you're working on a lab report together or something like that. Okay? You can see what the other person is typing while they're typing it, and you can be typing at the same time. Okay? It's really slick in that way. All right, so what you need then, okay, is you go to well, you can start on the Redeemer website, so we'll go back to there. Okay, and when you go to the student portal, okay, you go to webmail. Okay, when you click on webmail, you'll get the page I was just showing you a second ago. You'll get this. Okay, In here in the username is where you type the username you use to sign into the school computers. Okay, and then here, okay, you type in the password that you use to sign into the school computers and click sign in, and you will get this page, your Gmail page. This is your school email. All right. You probably won't have anything in there right now except for the Google Apps team how-to document. That's the only thing that'll be in there right now because most of you probably haven't used it yet. Okay, you're not going to use the mail part of it all that much. You're going to want to use the drive part. Okay, so you'll see drive here. When you click on drive, okay, your drive will show up. And again, you probably won't have anything in there yet because you haven't used it yet. Okay, but what you'll want to do is put all your school stuff in there. All right. Don't transfer your iTunes library there. It isn't big enough. Okay, it's only 30 gig, which is a lot, but it's not enough for your iTunes library. Okay, because if yours is anything like mine, it's like already 2 external 1 terabyte hard drives. Okay, you don't need that. Okay, it's not big enough for that. Just put your schoolwork on there. Okay, the way you do that is you click on the upload button right here. Okay, click on that and you highlight all the files you want to have in there and move them in. Okay, they all go in. Now you can access those files anywhere. Okay, it's just like iCloud, right? You can access them and put them on your phone or on another computer from anywhere. Okay, us teachers are all starting to use it now. It's really slick. I've got 2 laptops on my desk. I make a change on one of them, it's already changed on the other one. Okay, it's really, really slick that way. All right, you never have to worry about whether a file is current or anything like that. Okay, so when you get to there, okay, when you've got your file set up, I don't expect that you're doing this right now. This is recorded. There's also all these pictures and everything. This entire document is on my website. You can look at it later. Okay, but okay, you'll have documents in here. Okay, you can access all of them from there. Okay, now Google has essentially Microsoft Office for free. All right, so if you don't have Microsoft Office at home or you don't have Pages at home or whatever, it's no big deal. Okay. Again, the school division has gone to great expense to provide you with this stuff. Okay, how many people have ever used Google Docs before? Okay, it's just like Word. Okay, it's just like Pages. It's a word processor. You can type up all of your stuff in there, and it's free. All right. The nice thing about Google Docs, you will never have the I just got finished my lab report. It's been like an hour of work, and the power goes out, and you lose the whole thing. Okay, that'll never happen if you're using this, because it saves it about every 3 or 4 seconds automatically. Okay, we actually experimented with it first semester. Started typing and then someone would yank the power cord out from the computer. Okay, start it back up, go back to that file. I had lost 2 letters in a word. Okay, and that was it. And I was typing fast. So, okay, you'll never run into that problem. You probably all had that experience too, right? It's really frustrating. Here, you won't have that problem. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you have to type everything up using the Google Presentation or Google Docs. Google Presentation is like PowerPoint. Okay. There's a drawing thing that's it's so-so. Okay. There's also one that's like Excel. Essentially, it's got everything in there that you would have if you had Office. Okay. But you can. It's all free, so you can type it all in there. If you don't want to do it that way, if you want to use Word at home or whatever at home, that's fine. Just when you're done with that file, upload it to your Google Drive, and then it'll be there, okay, and you'll be able to access it anywhere. All right, you guys following me here? All right, so it's pretty slick in that way. Okay, if you hit the Create button, it'll ask you whether you want to make a Google Doc or a Google Presentation or blah, blah, blah. You just pick whichever one is appropriate. Okay, and like I said, those all get saved in here. Okay, and you'll have your own little folders, okay, in your drive. All right, so if you're making something in Google Docs, it'll look something like this. All right, so you'll have the file that you're typing up, okay, and you'll have the same kind of menu bar that you would have in any other word processor, with your boldface, your font size, and your centered or whatever. All that stuff is all in there. Okay. When you're submitting stuff to me, the only thing I have that I need you to do properly is the way you name your file. Okay. I want your file named with your first name, then your last name, and the period, and the title of the assignment. Okay, it's all up here. It's on the. I'm recording it right now, so you can watch this again if you need to. It's also on the document that's on my website. Okay, but that's the format for your file name for anything you submit to me. It's just if you do that, it's really easy for me to organize. Okay, and then everything shows up where it's supposed to. Okay, so everything you submit to me is going to be submitted through Google Drive. So you'll have to make sure that you get your stuff set up. It doesn't take very long. Okay, and then once you have it, it's pretty slick. Okay, now if you're typing something up on Google Drive, okay, you click up here to do the title, okay, and then this button here is probably the most important one. When you're all done, or if you're to the point where you want to have me look it over, okay, you click on the share button. Okay, when you click on the share button, okay, then it'll give you this screen, okay, sharing settings. And this is where you tell it who you want to share it with. All right, so if you're working in a group, you would share it with your group members. Okay, if you're handing it in to me, you share it with me. All right, you type in my email address. You're only going to have to type that in once, the first time. After that, I'll always show up here. Okay, and you can just click on my name. All right, and I'll always show up. Okay, and that's what mine will look like. Okay, it'll have my picture there and whatever. Okay, so it'll always look like that. Okay, so what you want to do is share that with me, and if you can, if you did it in Google Docs, give me editing privileges. Okay, that way I can put stuff right in your file. I can make comments and stuff like that in your file. Okay, especially if you're submitting it to me early and you want me to look it over. Okay, if you do it in Word or Pages, you won't be able to give me editing privileges because Google won't open those. It'll open them, but it won't let you edit them. Okay, so if you can, give me editing privileges. If you can't, then don't. All right. Once you have my name typed in here, or you've selected that you're sharing it with me, okay, this is usually checked by default, but just double check, because when you share it, I want an email that says, you know, John Smith has shared a file with you. Okay. Then click share and save, and it comes to me. Now I have it. Okay. Everybody follow there? All right. We'll go over that again the first time something is due, but okay, that's generally how that's going to work. So you click share and save, and you're good. Okay. Now, in terms of when things are due, we already said they're due at the start of class on the due date. When you send stuff to me, I'll know when. Okay. There's a time stamp on everything. All right. Now, the other thing, because somebody figured this out last semester, they submitted it to me thinking, oh, see, I submitted it before the start of class. Mr. Coder knows that I handed it in, but it's not done. But Coder hasn't started marking it yet, so I'll just go in and make I'll finish it after. Okay, I can tell. Because when you share it with me, I can tell when you last edited the file. So if it says last edited at 5:06 p.m. on the due date, I know that you were trying to pull the wool over my eyes. Okay? And I can go back to earlier versions of the file. So that's what I did. Okay? I just went back and I went in revision history and went back to the file version that was current at 2 o'clock when it was supposed to be handed in. That's the mark that person got. Actually, they got a 0 because I don't like being screwed with. Okay? So don't try and cheat. I'll know. Okay? Yeah. I don't think anyone would try that, but I'm just putting it out there. I can tell. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay, but it is good, especially if you're working on a project with a group. You know, one of you works on it and does something at 5 o'clock, and then you open it up at 7 and go, oh, somebody already did some work. I got to go and check, and you can see what was new, what was newly added. It sometimes even puts it in a different color. Okay, so it's pretty helpful that way, especially if you're working with other people on something. All right. Here's what you're going to want to do. Take your phone out again. Okay, you're going to put the Google Drive app on your phone right now. Okay, or you can even, I think it even works on the iPod, right? Oh, okay, so it won't work. Okay. All right, this will work on any platform, guys. Okay, Crackberry's got a Google Drive app, and Android's got it, and iOS has got it, so it'll work on any platform you have. Okay, unless you have some old Russian brick cell phone. Okay, then it might not work, but okay, it should work on all of them. Okay, go into your app store, whatever it happens to be, the Android or Google Play Store, whatever it is. Okay, go in there and search Google Drive. This is the icon you're looking for. All right, click on it and install it. Make sure you're connected to the school Wi-Fi and you're not doing that on your own data. Okay, you don't want to burn up your own data doing this. Okay, make sure you're connected to the school Wi-Fi when you do it. It's not big, okay, but you don't want to use your own data. Okay, so go to Google Drive and quickly install it. It shouldn't take very long for it to install. Like I said, it's not very big. Okay, once it's installed, you can open it up, and we'll talk about what you do after that. Okay, hopefully you got enough room on your phone for it. Like I say, it isn't a very big app, but if you're, kind of always flirting with the maximum capacity of your phone, it might put you over the top. Okay, how many people got it installed, ready to go? How many people is it still installing for? Okay, I'll give you another minute or two here. Okay, when you do have it installed, this is what you'll see when you first open it up. It'll be something like this. It's probably a little different on Android, but okay. So you'll see this thing here, and you just want to click Get Started. You can sweep through, but it's just talking about the features of Google Drive. Okay, just click Get Started. Okay, and you'll see the sign-in page. Right. So here for the email address, you'll put in your username. Okay. Okay, and at Isidore, okay, .redeemer.ab.ca. Okay, that's your full email address. You have to put in the full thing, okay, for this particular one. Yeah, it's the same one you use to log into the computers. Yeah. Okay, so guys, the password there is the same password you use to log into the school computers. All right, so log in there. Okay, just click Sign In. All right. Once you do that, you'll see something like this. Okay, like this dark one here on the left. It's whatever password you use to log into the school computers. Okay. All right. So you'll probably see something like this. If you click on My Drive, okay, what's in your drive shows up. These files are not stored on your phone. Okay, because that would gobble up a lot of space on your phone. All right. But you do need to be aware. These files are not stored on your phone. That means if you open one of them and you're not connected to Wi-Fi, it downloads it to your phone, which can use up some of your data. All right. So whenever you're using this stuff, just be aware. Okay. There's data going across. You probably want to be connected to Wi-Fi, especially if it's like a 100 meg PowerPoint presentation. All right. You don't want to be downloading that on 3G, or you'll have no data left to play with later. All right. So make sure you're aware of that. Okay. Be connected to Wi-Fi before you do anything. So if you forgot to share it with me from home last night or whatever, it's fine. You just click on the little I here next to whatever file you needed to share. It opens up the share page, and you click Share it with K-Codere at Redeemer. Boom, done. All right, so you can do that anytime, anywhere. Okay, and you don't have to worry about I forgot it. You only have to worry about remembering to get it done. Okay, that's the only thing you got to remember now. Okay. You can make some of the files, guys, available to you on your phone offline. Okay? If you do that, then they are saved on your phone, and they are taking up space on the memory on your phone. No, I don't want paper. We're doing this electronically. Okay? So no, I don't want any paper handed in to me. The only paper I want handed in is the sheet I give you that has your name on it and the marking rubrics. That's all I want. Okay. All right. Questions on how that works? Okay. If you didn't get a chance to do it today, it's okay. We'll kind of go over it quickly again when something is due. Okay. But that is the way you're going to be submitting stuff to me. Okay. This semester. All right. So make sure you've got it set up. You don't have to have a phone to do it. Okay. But if you're going to share stuff and you don't have a phone, you do have to do it from home or from the library or one of the computer labs here in the school, okay, something like that. But it is going to be shared with me electronically. That is the only way. Okay. All right. So questions there at all? Okay, like I said, this file here, guys, if you need to access it later, okay, is on my website. If you go into Science 10 Notes and Assignments, you go into Science 10 Notes and Assignments, it is, okay, right here, using your Google stuff. Okay, so all those slides I just showed you are right here in this file. Okay. Okay, questions on that stuff? We good with that? Okay. So what we'll start with here, guys, is a little bit of stuff on structure of the atom. So essentially the first lesson that we're going to do in this course. Okay, So obviously no one has the notes package probably printed yet, okay, but you can just follow along here today, okay, but you'll definitely want these notes for tomorrow or Monday at the latest. All right. So what we're going to go over first in this course is stuff about the structure of the atom, okay, or the history of kind of the development of our idea of what the atom looks like, a few important people, okay, and what they did. All right, so we have to look at how the theories of the structure of the atom were developed, okay, and learn the parts of the atom and their characteristics. Now, obviously, if you have your phone out, you can follow along here from the notes on my website if you want. Okay, you can do that right now. I've got no problem with you doing that. Okay, I've got no problem with you doing that at any point during this semester. Okay, as long as I don't catch you messaging or Facebooking in class on your phone. Okay, you're good. Okay, and then we want to go over the parts of the atom and their characteristics. What are the three parts of the atom? Three things that are in there. Okay, what's in the nucleus? You're right, I probably should have been more specific. The nucleus is one of the parts of the atom. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Okay, those are the three parts of the atom. Okay, so we got to know those. Protons. I never spell neutron right. It never looks right, no matter how I spell it. Okay, and electron. All right. Which of those two are in the nucleus? Protons and neutrons. Okay, protons and neutrons are the heaviest part of the atom. Okay, protons and neutrons have pretty much the same mass. Okay, electrons are a great deal smaller and have a great deal less mass, and they tend to circle or orbit the nucleus. Okay, at varying distances. It's not really an orbit. Orbit's kind of a bad word to use. Okay, but they move about. Okay, around the outside of the nucleus. Okay, protons have what charge? Right, these ones are positive. Okay, neutrons are neutral. Okay, electrons are, well, if I've got a positive and a neutral, this one must be negative, right? All right, so electrons are negative. Now, the idea of the atom was not well accepted initially. Okay, for a few reasons. People didn't like believing in things they couldn't see. Okay, and you know, when people first started saying, well, everything's made up of these tiny little particles that you can't see, people are like, well, then how do you know? Prove it. Okay, so the idea took kind of a while to catch on. Okay, what we know of the atom, okay, a lot of the stuff we know of the atom was actually discovered by people who had absolutely no intention of doing anything really scientific. Okay, these people were known as the alchemists. Okay, the alchemists' goal was to essentially get rich. Okay, they wanted to find a way to transmute one thing into something else. Okay, namely cheap stuff into valuable stuff, lead into gold, okay, things like that. That was their goal. They wanted to be able to turn something into something else. Well, we know now that you can't change one element into another element. You can't change lead into gold. They're different materials. Okay, you would have to change the structure of their atoms in order to do that. There's no chemical reaction or mixing of ingredients that will cause that to happen. All right. So that's what they were trying to do. Obviously, they never accomplished that. They were also trying to do things like find the elixir of life and, you know, whatever else. They were, you know, pie in the sky kind of thinkers. All right. The first guy who had the idea of the atom was a Greek thinker named Democritus. Okay. And if you were Greek, being a thinker was like the best job there was. Okay, because basically you got to sit around and people would fan you with big palm branches and feed you grapes, and you just had to come up with cool ideas. Okay, so it was a pretty sweet gig if you got to be a thinker. Democritus was a thinker. Plato was a thinker. Okay, guys like that. Okay, they were all pretty important people in terms of what their role was. Now, Democritus, one of his ideas was, you know, I think that all things are made out of these tiny particles that we can't see, and I'm going to call them atoms, or actually he called them atomos, which means uncuttable. They were so small that you couldn't break them into smaller pieces. Okay, which is essentially still true. Okay, we know that atoms, by at least a physical means, can't be split in half. Okay, we can split them in half with a nuclear reactor, but we can't cut them, which is good, because if you could split the atom by cutting stuff, when you cut carrots on the chopping board, it would blow up. So it's kind of good that you can't do that. Okay, but that was his idea. The problem was people didn't accept it because the Greeks all believed that matter was made of 4 things. What 4 things? Right. Earth, air, fire, and water. Sometimes people say air instead of wind, but yeah. Okay, so earth, air, fire, and water were the 4 elements. Okay, so the problem for Democritus was that a much more respected thinker, Aristotle, okay, was the guy who said no, it's 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. People liked the 4-element idea because it was something they could understand and it was something they could experience. Okay, they had essentially like a periodic table of everything on Earth and how much of each thing was water, earth, air, and fire. All right. So if you had steam, for example, steam was some parts water, some parts air, and some parts fire. Because that's the 3 things you would combine to make it. You take water, you put it over a fire, and it turns into air, right? So it was some parts earth, it was some parts fire, some parts water, and some parts air. Okay, it made sense. These were kind of logical conclusions for them to come to. Okay, mercury, okay, which is a liquid metal, was some parts water and some parts earth. Okay, again, it made sense. It flowed like a liquid, but it obviously wasn't water, so it had to have some earth in it, so that's what it was. All right, and they had kind of a logical reasoning for each and everything that they knew existed. All right, that made sense, so they accepted it, and they said, Democritus, go think up something else, which he did. What did he think up? Oh, after that. They didn't like his atom idea. They told him to go think up something else. Democritus, democracy. Wasn't all bad for Democritus. Okay, he did come up with something good. Okay, afterwards. All right, but his atom idea didn't catch on. It's unfortunate because he was right. Okay, it just took 1,000 years or so for people to figure that out. Okay, so we already talked about the alchemists here. Okay, that's what a typical alchemist's lab would look like. They'd have all kinds of beakers and jars and stuff, okay, that they would use, mortars and pestles, those grinder things, okay, that they would use. All right, whatever. Kind of scientific looking stuff. The thing is, they weren't really scientists because they didn't use the scientific method, okay, like we do. Whenever we do an experiment, we have a problem that we're investigating and a hypothesis, and we make sure that everything is controlled, okay. The alchemists were trial and error guys. I wonder what happens when I mix these 2 things together. That's what they did. Okay? Nothing. Okay, well, try something else. All right? I mean, who knows how many times alchemists invented gunpowder. They just didn't live long enough to tell anybody about it. All right? Oh, I made these cool black rocks. I wonder what happens when you start them on fire. Boom! Okay? It was tough being an alchemist because they could never really be successful at what they wanted to do, turn lead into gold and find the elixir of life. So, but they did still find out a lot of things about the behavior of matter. Okay, and that was used later on in more respectable sciences. Okay, so these 2 guys were pretty important in turning alchemy into a real science. Okay, and that's Antoine Lavoisier and Roger Bacon. Okay, they're essentially the guys who are credited with coming up with the scientific method. Okay, and taking alchemy from trial and error to something that was more effective and was better at communicating, okay, between people. The alchemists, they didn't want to communicate their findings with anybody else because they didn't want anyone else to get rich before they made their big discovery. Okay, and that doesn't advance science very well. There has to be communication and sharing of information, and that's kind of what these guys did. Is they brought all of that in. Okay. A little later after that, okay, the idea of the atom came along. So the idea of the atom is something like this. An atom is the smallest particle of an element that still retains all the same properties. Okay, so for lead, if I've got a whole bunch of lead, it's all got the same melting point. If I have only 1 atom of lead, its melting point is the same as if I have a big chunk of lead. All right, if I was to keep cutting the lead down into smaller and smaller pieces, okay, eventually, theoretically, I would get down to the point where I had individual atoms. Right? Now, like we said, it's impossible to actually cut something with a knife down to that point. The sharp edge of a knife is millions of atoms across. Okay? If you look at the sharp end of a pin or the sharp end of a knife under an electron microscope, it looks flat. It doesn't look sharp at all. Okay? Because at great magnifications, you see that sharp things really are flat all the way across. Okay? Again, it's millions of atoms across. You could never cut an atom with a knife. All right? You want to split an atom? It's a little different process. Okay? I'll explain to you how that works in a little while. All right? So smallest particle of an element, okay, that retains the properties of that element is an atom. Okay, so that's the definition of an atom. Okay, important for us to know. Now, the properties of each material are based on what their atoms look like. Okay, if I have an atom of lead and an atom of oxygen side by side, if I could actually see atoms if they were big enough, would look different. Would look obviously different. Okay, and it's the same for any two elements of different materials. They look different because they each have different amounts of protons, different amounts of neutrons, and different amounts of electrons. Okay, and it's the number of protons, mostly, okay, but essentially the number of particles in an atom that give that atom its properties. All right, so the fact that, let's say for example, oxygen, okay, every oxygen atom has 8 protons in its nucleus, okay, and it's got 8 neutrons in its nucleus, and it's got 8 electrons around the outside. All right, having that many protons is what makes oxygen a gas at room temperature, okay, and have a certain density and have certain other properties. Okay, you look at sodium. Sodium's atoms all have 11 protons in them, okay, and they have 12. Yeah, they have 12 neutrons in them. Okay, they're different. Okay? And because they're different, they behave differently. They have different properties. It's kind of like each of us has slightly different DNA. Right? And as a result, we all look slightly different. Right? We have the same general form, but we all have small differences in us because we have small differences. No. Fundamental particles are not possible to split. We know that protons are made up of smaller particles like quarks, okay, because there's up quarks, down quarks, strange quarks, a couple other kinds. There's all these different quarks, okay. But yeah, they're made up of small things, but we can't break them down into those. In fact, there's some atoms that we can't break. Right? When we use nuclear fission, when we split atoms, we're splitting big atoms. Well, not big like this, but big for atoms. Okay, they're much bigger than smaller atoms. Okay, you know, you couldn't put hydrogen in a reactor and split it. It's only one proton. There's nothing to split. Right? So yeah, we use big stuff like uranium. Okay, so for example, uranium is down here. Okay, it has 239 particles in its nucleus, where oxygen has 8. Okay, is this a much bigger atom? Okay, it has 92 protons where this has 8 protons. It's a much bigger atom. It's a bigger target. That's why we use it. The bigger they are, the less stable they are, easier they split. Okay, all right. So that's what we need to know, kind of about the idea of the atom. Now, what we're going to talk about tomorrow are the different shapes that people thought the atom had or was shaped like. We're going to look at those tomorrow. All right. So we'll leave it there. Tomorrow we'll start out with Dalton's atomic theory and his 4 points. Remember, tonight, if you can, it is a good idea to get the notes package ready. Either it's on your tablet or phone, okay, or you print it. It's up to you. Okay.